Here we'll see how the UML class diagram, the representation look like and what are the properties of the class diagram. So let's begin with what you mean by class diagram that describes the complete structure of the system in terms of objects and the classes. And classes are give the abstract representation where it includes the attributes and on what behavior the set of object operates. So overall, the class is collection of object that shares the set of attributes, and those attributes are distinguishes from each objects of the member of the class. Objects are entities that encapsulate the states and behavior. Each object has an entity. It can be referred individually and it is distinguishable from other objects. Then where we can apply these class diagrams? During the requirement analysis or during the system design into subsystem or during the object design to specific the detailed. If you want to know the behavior and the attribute of the classes in detail, then we can go for the class diagram. So where the class diagram contains mainly three parts. One is the name of the class on the top. The center compartment indicates the attributes and the third one indicates its operations. The attribute and operations compartments can be omitted for the clarity. So there is the option for attribute and the operation, but the mandatory things is only for the class. Object names are underlined to indicate those objects are belong to the particular class. The naming convention we have to follow in order to indicate the class name, always the first letter should start with uppercase letter. So here the class field officer is the name of the class. The Bob and alias are the object which are belong to the particular instance of the class, that is field officer. When you look into this diagram representation, the class name is only the mandatory. The tariff schedule is name of the class where it doesn't have any attribute and operations. If you want, we can mention the attribute and name of the operation. As we contains, class contains only three different compartment, name of the class, attribute and operations. And every attribute must have the data type and must have the signature for every operations. So tariff schedule contains the Zone 2 price is the name of the attribute where it has the signature, it has the data type and few of the operations where it contains the signatures. So the example here, the field officer is a class where it has two attributes, the name and the badge number of the type string and integer respectively. So here one author can generate the many reports as the star indicates. There are many reports may belongs to one incident and that incident, many incidents may be reported to a particular dispatcher. So this is how the connectivity with the multipliers are attached on the association line. So this is the one of the example of the use case, that is the report emergency of the front management system. So in this example, the field officer has two attributes, name and badge number of the type string and integer. So these are the two objects which are common for many of the field officers. Here, the Bob and alias are the two objects. So these all are in the small letter followed by colon and name of the class. So these are the two attribute name and badge which is common for all the instances of field officer. And we are talking about particular report. The report 1291 is name of the report. Again, it is instance of the emergency report. And it is belong to a particular incident, that is incident number 1515 that can be submitted to the dispatcher. The name of the dispatcher is John. So like that, they may have a multiple dispatcher. They may have the common attributes name and badge number. This is one example how the object can participate in the class. So what is the difference between the actor, class and object? So for example, in this diagram, the actor, student, in the student management system, we can read the details of the student. We can display the student of the details. So here student is acting an actor. Then which student we are talking about, the name of the student is XYZ. So particularly with the objects, and what is the name of this class? We can call it as the student management system. So what do you mean by the concrete class and the abstract class? Whatever we discussed now, that is the normal class is nothing but a concrete class. Now we are moving to the abstract class. That means the abstract class, there is no object can be direct entity of the abstract class. Abstract class can neither be declared nor be instantiated. That means we cannot create any object for the abstract class. It is used to find the functionalities across the class. The notation of the abstract is similar to the normal class, but the name of the class will be written okay in italic number. So for example, if you look at the diagram, the shape contains different attributes and different operations. And there is a square, it is inherited from the shape. Here, the get area of the shape, it is common for different objects, that is a square, rectangle and the triangle. The get area operation is common for all the different shapes which is inherited from the shape class. Here the shape is acting as an abstract class. So what is the relationship between the association and the links? These two terminologies are different. The link represents the connection between two objects, but the associations are relationship between the two different classes that represent the group of links. So in this, each field officer, the object also has a list of emergency report that has been written by the field officer. So one author can have a multiple reports. So there is a line between the field officer class and the emergency report class. We call it as association. Then what do you mean by link? So there is a alias instance of the field officer connected to one of the objects of the report, named it as report 1291. We call it as a link. So link is connectivity between the two objects. Association is connection between the two different classes. So in the UML, always we follow the symmetrical. So we may have a symmetrical or asymmetrical, bidirectional or unidirectional association. So what do you mean by the association class? Association class are similar to the classes, even that can have a attribute and operations, but which can be attached to the association symbol. So when you look at the diagram, there are multiple points formed a polygon. And in between these two classes, field officer and the incident, there is association between the two different classes, and there is a dashed line connected with one of the classes that is connected to the association. So we call it as association class. The associativity is connected on the association line. So as of now, we covered the concrete class, abstract class, and association class. So what is the role of the association in the class? Each end of the association can be labeled by role. The role of association between emergency report and the field officers are author and the report generated. Which author generated what kind of reports? Or how many reports? So these, the numberings 1 and 1 is to star or 1 to n. These numbering indicates multipliers. Means how many authors and how many reports which are generated. So the reports generated and it will be sent to whom. So on what scenario we are talking about it. The role of the association between emergency report and the field officers are author and the report generated. Here one author can generate multiple reports. So what is the role of the author? He is a kind of report generated. And there is a association between the incident and the dispatcher. There are many incidents, but the report will be generated to only one dispatcher, the one who initiated. So we have to write the numbering on the association end. So we call it as multiplicity. The numbering what we mentioned, we call it as multiplicity, where the multiplicity contains a set of integer indicating the number of links that can legibly originate from the instance of the class connected to the association end. Set of integers, it is called as multiplicity of the association end. So there are three types of association, one-to-one association, where the multiplicity 1 is mentioned on each end of the association, where there is a line exists between the instances of each class. Then there is a one-to-many association, multiplicity 1 on one end and 0 to n, or we can represent from starting 1 to n on the other end. But there is a connectivity between two different classes. Many to many. Again, there is a instances of two different classes. There is a connectivity. So 0 to n on one end or 1 to n is on the other end. That indicates the number of links exist between the classes or instance of the classes. It depends on what type of association we are talking about. So the same can be represented using the diagram. Police officer, they have a one officer can have a one badge number. So this is a one to one to many, and many to many relationship. Same thing using the diagram. So what do you mean by aggregation? Aggregation is a special case of association denoting it consists of, there is a hierarchy. So we call it as a parent class and the components are the children's. So one to many association and aggregations both are similar still, but we cannot, concept cannot be interchangeable. So aggregation denote hierarchical aspects of the relationship, can have one to many or many to many multiplicity. Here, most of the countries have one cities. So one in one country can have a many states. This is the opposite numbering can be done. So here one police officer, one is represented here, but there can be many police stations. So in that way, so it gives aggregation means it's a group of collection of the states or collection of the police stations. So one directory may contain a multiple files. So next comes the qualification, where in order to reduce the multiplicity, we go for the qualification. Means instead of talking generally without qualification, one directory, there is a multiple directories can have a, one directory can have multiple files. Instead of that, we need to apply the qualification where we need to speak about the specific file. So by applying the qualification, every directory contains few of the file names. We have to be specific about the file. That is nothing but qualification. We are reducing the star multiple to 1. Means we are talking about the specific file name where the directory contains. The same second example, the stock exchange can have a company. The company have a many symbols, but which company you are talking about? So we have to use the logo. We call it as a ticker symbol. So we are talk about the specific company we are talking about. That applies the qualification. So qualification nothing but just reducing the multiplicity. The inheritance is another special case of association denoting the kind of hierarchy. Inheritance implies the analysis model by introducing it follows the taxonomy where there is a kind of relationship between the parent class and the child class. Are we talking about the general class or it is a specialized class? So when you look at the diagram, it is a field officer, police officer. There may be a field officer or it may be a dispatch. It's talk about the hierarchy. So it is a kind of generalization. So again, generalization, the inheritance concept, it is belongs to abstract class, where we can apply the class diagram. As we already discussed, the class diagram describes the structure of the complete model of the class where it contains the attribute, operations and the relationship, and it helps us to define the system, what is the boundary and where in the real world it is applicable for the different use cases and who all will be involved in order to resolve that or in order to model the building. So analysis model focus on understanding the domain but not the implementation details. So these diagrams are later, it will be refined during the design to include some of the technical aspects. So this is the general structure of the class diagram where it has the multiple classes along with the attribute and the operations which are mentioned, and most of the classes have the name of the class, attributes and the operations, and also mention the multiplicity which is nothing but the cardinality ratio. We call it as database management system. And we also have the inheritance concept. The payment of the book or payment of the order can be done in 3 different ways. So we have the rectangle symbol indicates the inheritance. So this is complete about the class diagram. Thank you.